profitable business can still go bankrupt. How does this happen? I'm about to show you the map so you don't fall into the trap. Now, if you've ever watched Andrew Tate's video when he discusses business, he talks about the importance of speed. What he's actually talking about is cash flow. Cash flow keeps the lights on. Cash flow pays the bills. Cash flow pays the rent. How fast does your money move? Don't mistake profits for cash flow. Cash is king. Now, a lot of the time, when we look at people and we hear people talking about their businesses, many times they talk about profits, but many profitable businesses has still gone bankrupt. Now, would you rather look big and go bankrupt, or would you rather look small and survive? Now, cash flow is one of my favorite subjects. This is one of my favorite environments. I thrive in a fast-paced environment. This is what I love. How fast can you make money move? This isn't something that you can teach everyone, but I'm going to do my best to teach you skills on how to make your money move faster within business and how to minimize your risk of bankruptcy, even if you have a profitable product. For example, you know your buying price is good, you know your selling price is good, your profit margins look good, but the speed of the sell or the speed of how fast you take money in just isn't there. Because by the time the debts come in, by the time the loans come in, by the time the rent needs to be paid, or by the time the staff needs to be paid, nobody cares about how much profit you made from your business. Interest rates don't care how much profits you made. All it matters is how much money do you have in the bank today, how fast is your cash moving, and can you pay those bills and those staff wages today? So stay locked in. Episode 3, From the Ground Up, why cash flow matters more than profits. This mistake of not understanding the difference between cash flow and profits kills more businesses than bad ideas. Misunderstanding money, fake success, and chasing profits rather than cash flow will put you in a situation where you'll have no breathing space and you'll be making bad decisions under pressure. Now, a lot of people look like they're doing well, they think they're doing well, they're selling products, but things are just not moving fast enough. This doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong. This just means that you haven't been taught the difference and understand the right way to keep your cash moving as well as remaining profitable. Being profitable is a good thing. So if you're in business and you are profitable, you are on the right path. But if your cash reserves are drying up quickly, then that means that you're doing something wrong and someone hasn't taught you the right way in keeping your cash moving. Running multiple businesses taught me early on that profit was fairy. Profit was something that I was going to sit down and discuss with my accountant at the end of the year. Cash flow was my reality. Cash flow, what was happening today. That's what's happening this week. That's what's happening this month. If I don't get my cash flow right, I'm going to sink or swim. This is how you have to understand the two. Profits is more of a long-term scenario. It's more of a long-term equation to how well you've done throughout the entire year, 365 days. Cash flow isn't really seasonal. Cash flow isn't something that we look at in seasons. We don't look at cash flow really in terms of Christmas being our busy period, after summer when we get university students buying computer systems or getting their grants and then they're all coming to use us in retail. This isn't how we're looking at cash flow. We're looking at cash flow as how do we keep cash moving 7 days a week? How do we get invoices paid quicker? How do we get customers to leave deposits? How do we get stock on consignment with a longer term payment method? How do we keep cash moving for our business to give us freedom in order to make different types of business strategy to prepare for those trends, to prepare to have a large amount of stock for after the summer when university students go back into uni and we know that we're going to have a spike in sales? How do we get that cash ready for Christmas? Knowing that, right, Christmas time, this is how much sales we're expecting. We need this much stock for December. How do we ensure that we survive that amount of time? This all boils down to cash flow and cash flow strategies. There's many things that you can do to keep your cash moving. Can you retain these customer sales? Is there customer retention? Can you get customers paying you monthly to get customers and your cash flow moving? This is what we're now seeing with subscription models. This is how a lot of businesses that had a profitable item, but couldn't really keep that financial retention and that financial relationship between the customer. This is how profitable businesses have failed. It wasn't about the product, it was more about the speed. Invoicing. Can we put shorter deadline times on invoices? Sometimes, some people are taking on goods and taking on services and they got invoice of 30 days to pay. Now, what happens if those businesses fail to pay you for another 15 days? Coming out of 2025, speaking to other business owners, this is what I've noticed loads of people were going through, especially people in the building trade. A lot of my friends running building companies, plumbing businesses, got so much staff members. A lot of the invoices that they had weren't being paid. A friend of mine, he said, look, if this doesn't get paid for another 30 days, this business is going to go bankrupt. If the invoice in the beginning, you were able to say, rather than having 30 days to pay, I'm going to give you 14 or I'm going to give you 7. But me giving you 7 days, I'm going to give you a bit more of a discount because I'm trying to retain that money to increase my cash flow so I can increase my stock reserves for something that was seasonal. Now, I'm hoping that this makes sense to you because, like I said earlier, this is one of my favorite scenarios in business to navigate. But this is incredibly difficult to teach your sales assistants or to teach your team the importance of getting money in before sometimes you even have a product to sell. Getting people to leave deposits to build up those cash reserves. Having timeframes where I have to deliver this by this time, but if you pay in advance, I'm going to give you a discount. There's so many tips and tricks that you can use to keep your cash reserves high. Another thing that you got to be careful of in business is over expanding. How fast are you expanding? Being overstaffed, because now being overstaffed means that you're going to have less of that cash when the end of the month comes. What's the size of your business premises? Is your business premises too big? Have you got too much space? Could you be in a business premises that you get rates relief on rather than being in a business premises that's really expensive? This is one of the strategies that I used to grow Minko's Max. A lot of the time when people come into Minko's Max or they see the location of some of the stores, they end up saying, why are you not in the shopping center? Why are you not on the busiest part of the high street? Do they understand what the rental cost of that would be? And do they understand what the staffing cost of that would be? A lot of the time we see CEX, they have had that strategy. They're a competitor of ours. But when I've been going into a CEX through the majority of 2025, the stores are looking empty, but they're franchises, right? So someone who's got the franchise, from my point of view, they must be suffering. For us, we have low cost properties and we have properties where we don't need that many staff members in, and we have properties where they'd all be possible to have business rates on those properties. These are low cost retail stores. So, we're seeing loads of businesses struggle in this area of having cash reserves because a lot of the UK and a lot of Western businesses are built on debt. Now, as I said earlier, even if you've got a profitable item, but you're not moving fast enough, when it's time to pay that debt's got to be paid on that day. So there's loads of ways that we need to look at, ways of keeping our cash reserves full, or as full as they can be, and focusing more on that, and then looking at profits a bit later on in the year. Now, let's look at a few more strategies that we can use to keep our cash reserves up. You want to look at what stock of yours moves the fastest. So what stock is it that you have that's selling the quickest, and what stock is sitting idle? The idle stock you kind of want to eliminate. You want to focus on the 80% of stock that's moving quickly. You want to use the 80-20 rule to look at your stock levels and understand, this is what I'm known for, this is what I'm selling the fastest, and this is what's idle. So for us, we had to realize this, and we converted more from being a sales company into a repair company, where 80% repairs, 20% sales. Repairs, people want their items back quicker. So we know that the majority of repairs are going to be cracked screens and batteries. So it makes sense for us to stock cracked screens and batteries, right? This is what's going to move quicker. This is what's going to keep our cash flow moving fast. And we know that there's good profits attached to these items. Another thing that I like to do at the beginning of every year, I go through my bank account and I cancel most of my direct debits, right? I look back at them and I say, right, what subscriptions are we paying? What licenses are we paying? And what are we actually using? How can we save money here? That might save me a couple of £100 every month. This is something that you should do as an individual anyway, as well as doing as a business. Another thing you want to be looking at is the performance with your staff, right? Now, this is a hard conversation. This is a hard subject, right? You want to look at what staff is performing and what staff isn't. Now, obviously, you're going to have a word with your staff members that are not performing, or, you know, the staff member that is performing, you want to know who you can pair people with so that hopefully the performers can teach the others before they end up losing their job. Because if you're paying people that are not really giving you your money back, then you're wasting money there. Whatever you pay staff, they should be making you double. If that staff member's costing you £200 a day, he should be bringing in £400 a day. Right? So we got idle stock, get rid of that. We got unproductive staff, get rid of that. We got you might be locked into particular type of contracts, right? Just like subscriptions, these are things that you want to revisit. Like I said earlier, you want to negotiate payment terms. Who can give you the best payment terms on stock? Who's asking for the least amount of interest on these payment terms? This is how we're going to keep our cash reserves high. So like a lot of other businesses that we've been familiar with that were profitable, but we're losing money in staffing and losing money in premises, rental costs. We got businesses like HMV. We got businesses like, what's the other one? Toys R Us. This is a good one. Toys R Us being given toys that they're taking too long to sell. It's not a case of when the toy sells, you know that the profit's good, right? But now you look at the size of these premises and you probably look at the size of their debts. Billions of pounds incurring huge amounts of interest, right? But the majority of their money was draining more than likely from the premises. Same thing as HMV, they were losing money due to the size of the premises. You know, the utility bills on those premises would have been crazy. The staff members that they would have need inside those premises would have been crazy, and the business rates on these premises. So can you be conducting business from a smaller space? This is what we're seeing lots of people do. WeWork, the same thing, losing money like a tap, just a constant tap running. And the thing with WeWork is their expansion. They had a huge expansion. They expanded too fast, too quick. And like we saw in COVID, they just hemorrhaged money. So this is something that we got to look at in a sense of cash flow, knowing the difference between cash flow and profits. And once you can get that right, you can go out every single day focusing on how much cash you're bringing in this week and how much cash you're bringing in today and how much cash you've got in your bank today and how much cash you got for this month, right? So separate the two, understand the difference between cash flow and profits, and don't consume cash flow in things that are idle. You know, idle stock, idle staff members, and, you know, a big property where there's idle rooms. Yeah. So from the ground up, episode 3, why cash flow is more important than profits. If you like the subject, hit the like button. If you've got something to add to this, drop a comment, follow, subscribe, and all of that good stuff. Peace.